Welcome to the 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers and their Week 7 matchup played October 22nd, 2015 as these two NFC West division rivals went at it. And for both these teams, this is really a must-win game as neither one could really afford to lose, already at 2-4 respectively each going into the game. And let's look at the scores. Starting off in the first quarter, midway through, Marshawn Lynch scored on a 1-yard touchdown run with about 7 minutes left in the first quarter. He just kept pounding it in and eventually got into the end zone. He had almost scored earlier, but they ruled that he was down at the 1, and then he would end up scoring on the 1-yard touchdown run and the extra point by Hauschka, and it was 7-0 Seattle over San Francisco. So in the second quarter, with about 9.5 minutes left before halftime, Steven Hauschka hit a 49-yard field goal, and it was now 10-0 Seahawks over the 49ers. Then with less than 3 minutes left before halftime, Russell Wilson hit Tyler Lockett, and he went 43 yards for the touchdown, the extra point by Hauschka, and it was 17-0 Seattle over San Francisco. Actually, Seattle almost scored again. They got back down to the red zone, but then Wilson was intercepted before halftime by Tremaine Brock. So 17-0 heading into halftime, and in the third quarter, with about a minute and a half left, Phil Dawson hit a 35-yard field goal to put San Francisco's first points on the board, and it was now 17-3, and that field goal was a result of a 10-play drive that went 76 yards after Aker had intercepted Wilson for the second time in this game. Well, the Niners, the second interception, Aker's first, Brock had the other one at the end of the first half. But here in the third quarter, the interception leads to 3 points, and it was a 14-point game. And so now into the fourth, with about 9.5 minutes left in the game, Steven Hauschka hit a 46-yard field goal, and it was now 20-3. And that would be the final score as the Seahawks held the Niners out of the end zone for the entire game. They only got the 3 points, and now the Seahawks improved to 3-4 on the season. It's their first road victory of 2015 as they're 1-3 away from Seattle. The Niners now 2-5. They're 500 at home, 2-2 in Levi. So Seattle 1 game away from evening up their record as they trail the Cardinals, who are in first place. They're 4-2, but Seattle is in second place, and the Niners fall to the bottom of the division, at least for the moment, depending on what happens this weekend. But in this game, Russell Wilson, 18-24, 235 passing yards, 1 touchdown, that 43-yarder to Tyler Lockett, and then 2 interceptions. Of course, those 2 interceptions only led to 3 points. And Wilson was sacked 5 times in this game. He actually has been sacked more than any other quarterback in the NFL so far this season. And Colin Kaepernick, though, he was sacked 6 times in this game as the Seahawks did the Niners 1 better as they were really getting after it. Of course, Michael Bennett, 3.5 sacks as he was terrorizing Colin Kaepernick all evening long. Kaepernick was 13-24, just 124 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and he did not have any rushing yards, which is actually very uncharacteristic of Kaepernick, as the Seattle defense was not letting him out of the backfield. They did quite the number on San Francisco. The Seahawks really did shut him down in this game, as you'll see in these stats, and as you saw on the scoreboard, they only allowed 3 points. Of course, that was off of the second turnover for Seattle that 3 points even ended up happening. Of course, they still had to drive down the field to get down in field goal range, but Marshawn Lynch had a heck of a game. 27 carries for 122 yards and a touchdown. He was pounding the rock all night, getting yards against the Niners. And Rawls had 6 carries for 32 yards. Russell Wilson also had 7 carries for 20 yards as well. And for the 49ers, Carlos Hyde had just 11 carries for 40 yards. And through the air, Tyler Lockett led the game with 5 receptions for 79 yards and a touchdown for Seattle. Kearse had 3 receptions for 64 yards, Jackson, the running back, had 4 receptions for 33 yards. Jimmy Graham, just 2 receptions for 31 yards. Doug Baldwin, 2 receptions for 19 yards. And Rawls had 2 receptions for 9 yards. He also had 6 carries for 32 yards, which gave him 41 total yards on the game. So Rawls actually had more yards than Carlos Hyde in this game. For the 49ers, Vernon Davis, 4 receptions for 61 yards. And Bolden, 3 receptions for 39 yards. Of course, that was even with the field goal they had there. Got set up by a couple big passes. Vernon Davis and Bolden each catching 1 for 27 yards on back-to-back plays. So that was the one moment where the Niners seemed to have something going, but that was it, really. And Phil Dawson, 1 for 1 on the field goals. Of course, no extra points. Hauschka, perfect, 2 for 2 on the field goals, 2 for 2 on the extra points. And on defense, the Seahawks, 6 sacks. Averill, 1.5. Bennett with 3.5. And King had the other half sack. Of course, Averill had a forced fumble as well. And the 49ers, they had 5 sacks and 2 interceptions. Lynch had 2 sacks, and so did Brooks. And Dial had a sack as well. And Tremaine Brock and Acker had the interceptions for the Niners. And when it came to first downs, the Seahawks, 21 first downs, just 8 first downs for the 49ers. As the Seattle Seahawks just dominated on defense. And that also shows on third downs as well, as the 49ers only converted 1 third down in this entire game. They were 1 for 11, just 9% conversion rate on third downs. The Seahawks 5 for 13, 38%. They also went for it once on fourth down, and they did convert. Total net yards, 388 for Seattle, 142 for San Francisco. Net rushing, 176 for Seattle, 61 for San Francisco. And through the air, net passing yards, 212 for the Seahawks. As I said, Russell Wilson sacked 5 times. He lost 23 yards on those sacks. And for the Niners, just 81 passing yards netted, as Kaepernick was sacked 6 times, losing 43 yards. So some pretty abysmal numbers there. Spectacular numbers for the defense of Seattle, but that's anemic on offense. Just nothing going there for San Francisco. They were just shutting them down. So they're really getting after them. And then the penalties, 6 penalties against the Seahawks, 50 yards penalized, 4 penalties for the 49ers, 33 yards penalized. Not much on the penalty ends, especially this season where we've seen a lot of penalties, not much in this game. Even though these two teams, they're known to get, pretty worked up when they go at each other. But this was just a beatdown by Seattle. And in the red zone, they were 1 for 1, 100%. And for the 49ers, they were 0 for 1, 0% in the red zone. And when you do not score in the red zone and you only get there once, you're going to lose. I mean, it's pretty rare that a team can not score any red zone touchdowns and not even only get to the red zone once and come away with a victory. And also on the time of possession, the Seahawks dominated as well. 38 minutes and 5 seconds, 21 minutes and 55 seconds for San Francisco. So just really, Seattle playing their type of ball. They've won 4 straight against the 49ers. They came in there, they ran the ball down their throats. They dominated the front line up in the trenches on the offensive end and on the defensive end, as they had those 6 sacks, getting in Kaepernick's face, not allowing him out the pocket, not allowing him to get any runs or pick up yards on the ground. And they weren't really picking up yards through the air either, as they couldn't get anything going, as Seattle was just all over them all night, heavy pressure, and just blanketing the receivers, just shutting them down and stuffing the run. And on the other side, Marshawn Lynch, he was in beast mode. He picked up a $122, even though he seemed like he might have had something going on, maybe a flu or something, or maybe ate too many Skittles. But he was getting it done on the field, that's for sure. And they just, even Russell Wilson, not like he puts up a lot of yards, and he did have a couple of turnovers, but he's clutch. He comes up when he needs to. He makes the big plays, to get them into position where they're going to score touchdowns and get field goals, even though he doesn't necessarily put up big numbers per se. And with the ground game that they have, they don't really need him to throw it in when they get in the red zone, they just hand it off to Marshawn Lynch. Although they weren't really getting the red zone much themselves, they were kind of struggling. Which, the thing is, give credit to San Francisco's defense. They're on the field twice as much as their offense. They're out there for almost 40 minutes in this game, and they were getting the pressure. They were bringing it. They sacked Wilson 5 times. They made it really tough for him, but they weren't able to stop Marshawn Lynch, and the offense wasn't giving them anything. They were out there the whole time. They've got a good defense in San Francisco, and it's actually a very impressive win for the Seahawks, regardless, to go into San Francisco and win this game, because these two teams, being division rivals, always play each other really tight. Even though the Seahawks, this is their 4th win in a row against the Niners, even with that, they still play each other pretty tight. And it is still a rivalry, even without, Harbaugh being there. Now you got Tom Sula, but it's still, NFC West, 2 of the best, even when their records might not indicate that. And of course, the Niners, they said they're kind of in a down year right now, but their defense is actually a lot better than, I think people give them credit for, even that I thought it was going to be. They actually play pretty solid D. It's just on offense, they're not getting it done. And the Seahawks, their defense has finally hit its stride. This is the kind of defense you expected to see out of Seattle. Cam's now been back for a few games, and now this kind of performance you'd expect to see out of the Legion of Boom, and really the whole team, is they were really bringing a lot of pressure and really dominating up in the trenches and on that front line, that front 7, and getting after Kaepernick, who's one of the most talented quarterbacks when it comes to scrambling, and they didn't let him get anything. So they did a heck of a job there for the Seahawks in this game. It's a big win, and now they're one win away from being even in 2015. So see if they get there. I believe they can do that, and they still have a chance. There's plenty of football left to play. The Cardinals 4-2. They're right there in the position, just like it was last year, where they could take over. Remember how hot the Cardinals were, and the Seahawks had to come up. We'll see what happens though. But this is definitely a good sign that the Seahawks are back on track, even though I know it's against the Niners, but still the Niners play them tough, and they've got a tough D. So I thought it was an impressive win, as I already said. But let me know what you think, though, in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day, and have a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.